So now we're hearing more and more, Steve, about raising the debt ceiling. Where are we with that?
You know, I get much of my information from Jay Leno.
That's a good source.
Yes, it is. Speaker of the House Boehner and Obama, as we know, went golfing earlier this week. I think we talked about that before. But the little-known fact is that they ended up $14 trillion over par.
Much like the debt going on, right?
Very much. The Republicans walked away from talks on the debt ceiling this week because they felt that they weren't getting in any place. We don't have enough money to pay all of our debt. Supposedly on August 2nd is the time frame that we're looking at when we run out of money. And either you spend less on government employees or less on entitlement programs like Social Security and others, or we don't pay the interest on bonds if people have lent the government money. And if we do that, we're in big trouble because our credit rating then could be reduced and the cost of borrowing would go up.
Well, how about taxes? Aren't people sending in their taxes?
The three options is that the government either makes more, spends less, or they borrow, just like you and I would. And after $14 trillion in debt, the Republicans don't want to raise the limit and borrow more. The Democrats do want to raise taxes. They call it raising the revenue, and it sounds good, especially when to tax the so-called rich. But much of what the government calls the rich are small business owners, and that's really the engine that drives our economy, and Republicans don't want to increase the tax rates. Think of this. If the tax rate were 0, then the government would get nothing. And if the tax rate were 100%, the government would get nothing, because who would work if all the money was taken by the government? So a fellow named Laffer, and it's an odd name, but that's really his name, developed a curve showing that it's somewhere in the middle between 0 and 100% tax rate is where the maximum amount is that the government can have. So when tax rates are reduced, lower income earners will have a benefit, and Obama would like that. But lower taxes on the rich in the past have shown that they will produce more, and that lower rate will generate more income. When Kennedy came in, he reduced the tax rate from 90% to 70%. It's incredible that taxes were that high not that long ago. And he increased revenues from $94 billion in 1961 to $153 billion in 1968 by lowering the tax rate. And then when Reagan came in, he had sweeping reductions as well, and tax revenues jumped in a similar way. Now, a lot of people tried to criticize that and say that, yes, but he ran up a huge deficit. But that's silly in my way of thinking. That's like if you or I had an increase in our income of 3 times, that would be a good thing. But if we spend 10 times more than we used to, of course, we go into debt. During the Reagan time, reducing tax rates did increase the amount of money to the government, and if we could just couple that with less spending, we could get our way out of this problem. So with the Republicans pulling out, Obama has to get into the dialogue, and that's probably a good thing. He can't just sit back and say it's up to Congress. He'll have to take more responsibility for what happens going forward.
Here's what I'm thinking. How about the rich donate to the government, and then they can write it off on their taxes?
Yeah, there are those we hear that come out and they say they wouldn't mind a higher tax rate, and, you know, good for them. Just write a bigger check, but leave the rest of us alone.
Yeah, I'm for that.
Uh-huh.
They're bound to raise the ceiling. They have to.
I think they have to raise the ceiling for now, but when they do so, they're also going to ask for permanent spending cuts and agreement that going forward we won't continue to dip in the till. So I think we do have to raise the debt limit, but let's get promises and let's get it in writing that we're going to make some real solid cuts to future spending so we don't do this again.
So what do you think about the flat tax rate?
I think it has promise. We have such a whole industry based on preparing taxes, but also maybe a consumption tax, too. Maybe we don't tax income. Maybe we just tax on what people consume.
There's an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if you would like to know more about Steve Aussie and how he can help you, go to his website, steveaussie.com.
steveaussie.com. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Steve.
Nice talking to you.